Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Super Saturday. Hope everyone have a good weekend. Just got done eating lunch, and Lucy sent me a candy bar through the phone, so I was eating that. And we got a big lineup, you guys. There's a lot of stuff coming out. I'm behind, so we got a lot of catching up on the intel. It's coming out so fast. I want to stay on till when my sister texts me around 5 or so to go shopping with her. I might have to come back tonight, so but I'm gonna stay on as long as whenever she texts me to meet her at the store. So probably about 5, hopefully no later than 6. But I'm watching my games on TV. Arizona's on at 3, and then Michigan on 6:30. The USA men's plays Canada tomorrow morning at 8:30. We're in second place. We're in second place in the medal count. Norway is winning the medals this time. So we got first up, Rise. Back here, how's it going? And Lucy, thanks for the candy bar. On you go. So Flying Eagle sent me a video from, I think, was it from Dr. Pruitt, Flying Eagle? So it's about the birth certificate. Uh, I sub to her to give her credit, Flying Eagle. I won't listen to her that much, but when you find the big videos, well, it looks like Q has a video on Mitch McConnell, and oh, the shorts. Yeah, that sounds good. I think I'll do that too. Come on, come on. You're all wired up because you ate your lunch. Chico just had lunch, so he's all. I'm on a computer now. Okay, what do you know? What do you know? Come on, come on. No more food. I know what you want. There's no more food right now. Okay. Well, there's the watchdog there. Chico, say hi to everybody. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. He wants to help you get a deer there, Flying Eagle. I'll send him your way. It's a medium-sized dog. This was my first one. Someone made me a pillow. I had him for 11 years. He was my first one. A thoroughbred shih tzu. So I'm going to wait till about 15 minutes, and then we'll play that big video that Flying Eagle sent. Lucy liked it, Flying Eagle. What are you doing? What? Talk. Say something. Say something. Talk to your pups. Your true pups. Huh? Oh. Yep. He was my first one. Yep. I got all his ashes and photos and everything. So. Hmm? What? I don't know if you remember Barb a long time ago, Flying Eagle, but someone sent me that pillow and a bunch of stuff for dude one time. I can't remember who it was. I text Kay. Hopefully she'll be in. I'm gonna share these clips on the phone because it's only 30 seconds. The first two clips. That was in Minnesota. Oh, I gotta sign into Telegram, so hang on a second. So we'll go ahead and start off with Q.
That Mitch McConnell possibly become any more reprehensible. He decides to say, "Hold my beer," and one up his last atrocity. And so Mitch McConnell came out and did the unthinkable today. And this is why I do what I do. This is why this channel is different from other channels out there. I continue to get people that are frustrated. They say, "You're not being positive." I am being positive. You shouldn't spend so much time talking about what Republicans are doing. I heard that too. Guys, at the end of the day, I don't care as much about the negative things that the left is doing. I don't expect them to do anything different. The left cannot beat us at this point. There are more of us than there are of them. We won the popular vote, if you don't remember. We won more states, far more states than they did. They cannot beat us unless we beat ourselves. Period. If we continue to vote in these rhinos, these people who are not conservative, then we are going to continue to get what we get. That's why I expose them for being who they are. We are the majority now. And as long as we could get a system put in place to stop the fraud, then there's no way we could ever lose again. There's no way we could ever be beat again.
Carol.
And so that's why I have chosen to focus so much of my attention on what in our own house needs to be cleaned up, because we must address our own house. Ask yourself, why is it that the most liberal and the most awful elected officials, Senate and House, that we have are coming from solidly red states? They're not coming from New York. They're not coming from California. The Lisa Murkowskis, the John Thunes, the Mitch McConnells, the Corcorans. These people aren't coming. These people are coming from solidly red states. So why is that? It's because these leftists have come to realize that Republicans in red states are going to take their foot off the gas. They're not going to pay attention in large numbers to what's going on in the primaries. And so they understand they could pour a whole lot of money behind a Democrat that's dressed up as a Republican. And that once the primary is up, the Republicans are going to flock into the voting booth, and they're going to vote for the person with the R next to their name, because they're in a red state and this person's representing the red state for the Republicans. The Democrats have infiltrated this party, period. And so for those of you guys who say, oh, Q, you must be a rhino because you're exposing, no, I'm not a rhino. In fact, I'd have to be a Republican to be a rhino. I don't consider myself to be a Republican at all because of the state of the Republican Party. I am a constitutional conservative. I say this time and time again. I'm America first, constitutional conservative. I will vote for the most conservative candidate on the ballot, period, point blank, into discussion. I have zero allegiance to party, but because of that, I don't think I could probably ever vote Democrat. But that being said, we just watched Mitch McConnell or someone in his office vote or block the SAVE Act from even being brought to the floor. Now, I'm not saying that I believe that this is going to be the end of it. I'm not saying that I don't believe that we can't still win this battle. What I'm simply saying is that we have a situation where it's not so simple, where we say, oh, the Democrats are no, it wasn't a Democrat that blocked it. They didn't have to. They know that they have enough people infiltrated in the Republican Party to do enough damage. If you think it's just Democrats that are benefiting from cheating, you have lost your mind. There is no way you'll ever convince me that in a solidly conservative red state like Kentucky, that the people continue to willfully vote Mitch McConnell in office. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. There are shenanigans working in his favor. Mitch McConnell is solidly the swamp. So either him or someone on his staff went to block this because they knew that they could not overcome the Republic, or their swamp could not win if people were actually getting proper voting rights. And that there was one person, one vote. Let me know what you guys think about this. Comment below. I know this is a longer video, but I'll see you guys next time.
Okay, the first cue. I got a 4-minute one that is new. I don't think I never played this one. Oh, actually 6.5 minutes.
Legitimate authority over them. Seriously, sit with that question for more than 5 seconds. This entire structure was built by people, regular human beings, no gods involved, no cosmic mandate, no universal law etched into the fabric of reality. Just men with pens, power, and opinions who decided they should be in charge and then wrote it down. And somehow, centuries later, people treat those decisions like they're untouchable. The Constitution? Let's stop bullshitting ourselves. It's not some sacred object. It's not a moral compass. It's not a source of truth. It's a list of privileges, permissions that a small group of men decided society would be allowed to exercise as long as it behaved properly. That's the whole thing. It doesn't recognize natural rights. It replaces them with conditions. You're allowed to speak within limits. You're allowed to own things under regulation. You're allowed to move with documentation. You're allowed to defend yourself if
What do you guys think
the
of this
state
one?
approves how and when. Every right comes with an asterisk and a footnote written by someone in power. And people still call that freedom. Natural rights don't come from ink and paper. They don't come from votes, courts, or legislative sessions. You don't wake up with freedom because a document allows it. You wake up with freedom because your creator gave it to you and because you're alive. Existence precedes permission. The moment a system claims it can grant rights, it's admitting something else, that it believes it owns the authority to revoke them. And it does, constantly, casually, with paperwork and polite
3 minutes.
language. Speech gets regulated, property gets seized, movement gets restricted, privacy gets invaded. All perfectly legal, all perfectly justified, all perfectly obedient. And people defend this arrangement like it's mature, civilized, when in reality, it's just normalized submission. And they flinch at the idea of questioning it because they've been trained to associate obedience with stability and dissent with danger. Look at the arrogance baked into that whole thing. A structure built by humans claims jurisdiction over humans. Rules written by dead men govern people who never consented to them. An abstract system made of offices, uniforms, and procedures insists it outranks living, breathing beings. And we're supposed to treat that as reasonable? Voting doesn't solve this because voting happens entirely inside the permission framework. You're not deciding whether the system should exist. You're choosing which manager gets to enforce it. You're picking the referee, but the game stays the same. Different face, same rules, same authority, same leash. And the reason people cling to it isn't because it's just or logical. It's because dependence has been engineered into every layer of life. Food routes through systems. Money routes through systems. Energy routes through systems. Healthcare routes through systems. When everything you need to survive is mediated by institutions, questioning their authority feels terrifying, even when that authority is completely artificial. So people defend it. They rationalize it. They pretend it's necessary, and they call it order. But order built on permission is not moral order. It's administrative control. Strip away the mythology, and what you're left with is simple. A system that only functions because people believe in it, comply with it, and enforce it on each other. No belief, no power, no compliance, no authority. That's why legitimacy is guarded so aggressively. That's why obedience is framed as responsibility. That's why fear is dressed up as civic duty. And when belief starts to crack, the system doesn't reflect or apologize. It tightens, it regulates harder, it enforces louder. Because force is the only language it has once consent starts slipping. So if things feel unstable, brittle and tense that is not a mystery. It's more people realizing something they were never supposed to question. They were never owned. They were never granted freedom. And the authority they were taught to fear was just an agreement. One that only works as long as everyone keeps playing along. And agreements, they're made by people, which means they can end.
How was that one, you guys? I got a couple more short ones, and then I'm going to do the video that Flying Eagle sent me last night.
Town last Friday. Their first clue, the shooting victim was found with a wallet full of business cards marketing women available for prostitution. Investigators believe a turf war between rival sex traffickers in Norristown led to a shooting here on the 400 block of Sandy Street on February 13th. Norristown police say 24-year-old Efron Flores Rodriguez shot 42-year-old Fernando Meza Ramirez in the leg during a drive-by shooting using a stolen vehicle. The subsequent investigation revealed both men were, quote, in the business of running women from New York City to Norristown for the purposes of prostitution.
It is crazy, and it's dangerous because this block has been very quiet and everything until they start coming around. I don't know if it's been 2 months.
April Montañez lives right next door to Flores Rodriguez on Jacoby Street. She had her suspicions about something going on after hearing people come in and out of the house at all hours of the night.
In the back. Yeah, because that door went shut. It's like a thump.
Long show.
And it was like, oh man, 2 o'clock in the morning, and they're like thump, thump.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, what the heck is going on here?
Doorbell camera video from another neighbor shows SWAT officers arriving to Flores Rodriguez's home on Tuesday. There, officers also found a sex trafficking victim. The woman said she worked for both Meza Ramirez and Flores Rodriguez and said they would transport her to clients for sex and she'd be paid half the profits. She also told police Meza Ramirez had been operating a prostitution ring out of Norristown for about 5 years, and Flores Rodriguez had recently been encroaching into the same territory. The police say Meza Ramirez was in the country illegally, and they believe Flores Rodriguez was as well. Both men were denied bail and remain locked up here in Montgomery County.
So that was a update on a sex trafficking arrest. One more 4-minute one, and the one video I was going to play first.
In the eye. You signed this, Attorney General, your name, your authorization. You personally ordered the removal of Harrison Caldwell's name from the Epstein files. Why? The room went dead quiet. Bondi's face changed quick. First surprise that Massey had the memo, then calculation, then that icy fury. Congressman Massey, she said, her voice cold as stone. That memorandum pertains to a sensitive matter I can't discuss in an open hearing. If you understood national security protocols, you'd know certain redactions are required to protect ongoing investigations. Massey just nodded slow. National security, that's what you wrote, but here's the thing, Attorney General. He reached for another document. This is Harrison Caldwell's FBI background file. Got it through the same subpoena. Let's talk about Harrison Caldwell. He read, Harrison Caldwell, age 67, founder and CEO of Caldwell Capital Partners, net worth about $4.2 billion, no government security clearance, no defense contracts, no ties to the intelligence community, no national security equities at all. Massey looked up. But here's what he does have. He's got 7 witnesses who say he was a regular at Epstein's properties, 12 flights logged on Epstein's plane,
Anybody see this
3
one?
women who took the stand and said, no, insisted, he assaulted them. One of them was just 15. Massey set the document down and reached for another. But that's not all, Attorney General. There's something here that hits a little closer to home. He pulled out a third document and slapped it on the desk. Federal Election Commission filing, 2022. Campaign contributions to Pam Bondi's Senate run. Harrison Caldwell, yeah, him, donated $2.3 million to your campaign, all funneled through a maze of PACs and LLCs. Biggest donor you had by a mile. The gallery sucked in a breath. Reporters started whispering. On the Republican side, panic flickered across faces. Massey kept going. Let me get this straight. The man who gave you $2.3 million, he's named by 7 witnesses. 3 victims accuse him directly. And you signed the order that scrubbed his name from public records using some fake national security excuse. He leaned in. Attorney General Bondi, did you bury evidence against your top donor? That's when Bondi snapped. That mistake, the one she'd never outrun, started right there. She didn't answer, she lashed out. Her cheeks went red, eyes narrowed. She spat her words at him. Congressman Massey, I find it rich that a failed Kentucky politician, a man with 0 accomplishments, thinks he can sit there and preach to me about justice. The room froze. Bondi wasn't finished. You don't know what you're talking about. You have no clue how federal law works. You're a conspiracy nut who builds his own furniture and thinks that makes him qualified to grill the Attorney General. She jabbed a finger at Massey. I won't answer your baseless accusations, and I sure won't sit here and take it from a guy whose biggest achievement is getting reelected in a district that vote for a tree stump if it had an R next to its name. Her attack lingered in the air, harsh, personal, way over the line. And honestly, kind of telling. Massey didn't flinch. He waited 3 slow seconds, then spoke. His voice steady, but strong enough to fill the room. Attorney General, I asked a simple question. Did you hide evidence against the man who gave you $2.3 million? Instead of answering, you called me a failed politician. He held up the memo. This is your...
Okay. That was interesting. Okay, this next one is about 28 minutes, 24 minutes from Flying Eagle. I believe it's from Dr. Pruitt.
Wipes out all your debt. Why is that? Because everything is prepaid. Everything is prepaid because of your birth certificate bond. Why? Well, I'm here to explain why that is. I have a couple other videos that explain exactly that, part 1, part 2. But this time we're going to go a little more in depth, okay, about what the birth certificate is. And let me begin. Something very interesting. You can definitely wipe out your any debt, whether it's judgments, lawsuits, credit card debt, child support debt, traffic tickets, anything, any violation, any charges with your birth certificate. Why is that? Okay. Let me begin with this interesting blog that my friend Yarrow has posted on Facebook to kind of give you a little background first. Okay, registration. Okay, so what the birth certificate is, it is a registration into a corporation. Registration means you are giving away ownership over to something else. So basically what happened, your birth certificate was a bond that your parents had no idea what was going on. They ended up having to sign it under duress, meaning they had no idea. They were told, they were forced to sign it, saying it was for something, to protect, just to protect them, protect the children, and all that. What was happening is they were signing a contract with no full disclosure of what the contract is. And if you know what a real contract is is between two human beings with full disclosure of the contract, which is bilateral, where two people have to be in agreement, meaning two human beings, not a human being and a corporation. Okay, that is not what a contract is. It is two people, two human beings coming into agreement, into the same, mutual agreement of bringing up a contract of, what they want to accomplish, okay, with two signatures by two human beings, not a signature by a person who represents a corporation. No, it's two human beings, okay? And what the birth certificate was a contract without any full disclosure of what was really going on. And what they did was they ended up signing us off, registering us children off to the state where the state would own us, okay? And they would create a name which was in all capital letters. Now, not all birth certificates have all capital letters. It doesn't mean anything, okay? But from what we've gathered, the bills that we receive in the mail, it has to do with the all capital name. Let's say that you get a bill and your name's always all in caps. You're like, well, why? Well, that's not how your name is really written.
Yeah, fine.
What they tried to do with our name is turn our name into a legal fiction, which is what a person means. If you look at the Black Law Dictionary, edition 7, a person represents a legal fiction and a corporation. In order for these corporations, such as the United States of America Corporation, check that out on Dun and Bradstreet, in order for them to have joinder, basically, have joinder with you, you have to be a corporation, or your name has to be a corporation in order for them to do a contract with you or operate in commerce with you. Because a corporation cannot attack a human being, a living man or a living woman. You have to be in a contract, and which is what your parents did. They ended up signing you over to the state without knowing. Me too. I'm just as guilty. Okay. So let me go ahead and read a little background here about what the birth certificate is that Yarrow brought up. It's really interesting. He got it from this article. So registration means enrollment. For example, students register to enroll in a school, which gives them certain rights and obligations. When it comes to the birth certificate, you're registering to enroll in the private federal democracy of the District of Columbia, aka the United States. You're registering to become a federal 14th Amendment U.S. citizen, which is a federal employee of the state, okay, or of the corporation. The United States Corporation was created in Washington, D.C. You know, when you launch a corporation, those of you who have a business or have started a corporation, you have to launch it out of the city that you're in. And all the laws, the bylaws, they all apply to that city and to that state. Why is it when this corporation was launched, was the United States Corporation, which is found in Dun and Bradstreet, why does it apply to all the other states? Well, we get into that later on in my e-course if you're very interested in learning about this. But this is the way you're going to be able to take your freedom back. And yes, you can wipe out all debt. And yes, with the birth certificate, you can pay for things. You can purchase things, which I'm have found out that you definitely can do utilizing something called your signature. Why? Because you're a shareholder of the corporation. This is something they never told you. Because you're registered as like a member of the corporation in the United States, shouldn't you be a shareholder? Shouldn't you be getting some money every year, which is maybe $300,000 a year? I know that the Native Americans, some of them, I think the Cherokee, they have a casino. Well, all the money's distributed among everybody and everybody gets a check. Why aren't you getting a check? That's because you are the shareholder of the corporation of the United States Corporation, which they did not let you know about. So moving right along here, registration means recording, enrolling, inserting in an official register. Enrollment as registration of voters, registration for school, the act of making a list, catalog, schedule, or register, particularly of an official character or making entries therein. Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition. But I had to throw that in there. So let me tell you, since we only have about 20 minutes on this video here that I want to explain to you. because of this scenario that happened, and because we are not aware of this, we are the United States of America, or corporation, sorry, not America, not the Republic, not the country that the Republic was founded on, basically. The United States of America Republic, okay, was founded on by Thomas Jefferson, Washington, George Washington, and all that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about later on what happened, okay? And basically, what they've done is they created everything into corporations. They turned all the republics of the states, like the California Republic, Alabama Republic, they turned them all into corporations. Again, look at Dun and Bradstreet, D-U-N-N and Bradstreet for proof of that. And by doing that, they ended up privatizing everything. They privatized the courts, the creditor companies, the banks, the judges, the cops, the IRS, all of them privatized. They are operating a for-profit corporation, and they are charging you, who is considered the debtor, okay? Why? Because the United States Corporation went bankrupt back in 1933. What happened was the Federal Reserve ended up making its way into to Washington, D.C. and threw the Treasury out, okay? And what the Treasury had at one time was Treasury notes, which was backed up by real gold, real silver. So they were holding on to our wealth. Our family had a lot of wealth. We had land, okay? And this applies to not only us Americans, also the people from the United Kingdom, Canadians, all over the world. All the gold from the world has been stripped from we, the people, from all over the world by some elite few, okay? This is something that they haven't taught us in history books or in school. So basically what happened was, because we're in debt, they ended up collateralizing all of us, okay? They ended up bringing in the Federal Reserve notes, which have no backup like the Treasury notes used to have, okay? Because everybody that used gold and silver, according to the Constitution, currency can only come in gold and silver. There was no such thing as a Federal Reserve note. And a Federal Reserve note is your example of what a commercial lien is on the public. Okay, with no backup, no real money, no real backup at all. It's the only backup from the Federal Reserve note is from people's hard work and toil and labor. What happened was we were collateralized on the UCC-1, which was a Uniform Commercial Code, which is international. We were collateralized as agriculture, okay, to take care of the debt that the United States Corporation brought us all in, and they ended up using us as cattle to take care of it. There was money that was owed, supposedly back in the 1800s or way before that. Supposedly Queen Elizabeth owed money to King George or something like that. And then the Vatican was involved in that as well. And when the United States was created, or the corporation, it has been in a lot of debt since then. They say back in 1933, but it was way beyond that, way before that, okay? So they collateralized us, and by doing that, they ended up creating the birth certificate to register all of us as basically board members of the corporation, but not letting us know that we are also beneficiaries of this corporation. That is why they need your signature. Every single time you sign a credit card or a slip. I'm sorry, like when you pay with your credit card or your debit card or whatever, or at the store, they always want your signature. Why? Because that has a lien on that, okay? They put a lien on that signature, and they've already done that. And that signature is worth millions or billions of dollars. I mean, I don't even want to get to that. I would say limitless, because we're limitless. Why is that? You're probably asking. It's because we come from the earth. We come from the earth. And in order for this high up so-called elite family, don't really know who they are really, but you know what I'm saying. They cannot put a lien on property. It has to be movable. And we come from the earth, so therefore they slapped a lien on us and slapped a lien on our signature. They've already done the UCC-1 on us. And that is why our UCC is a little different, because it brings us up to a more peaceful status, which is a non-adverse, non-belligerent, non-combatant party, which specifies a specific lien, which is maritime lien, or if you wanted to do agricultural lien. But some of the people that are doing the UCC ones, they're trying to find out why it's not working for them. Well, maybe it's because the UCC is not done correctly and there is no specification of what type of lien it is. So anyway, yes, we can use the UCC one when brought up to a higher level to put a lien on our government franchise or the birth certificate name. We call it the government franchise because, hey, they turned it into a franchise. That's why they're able to charge you for everything. So we have a way of taking care of it, of wiping out the debt, their debt, not our debt. It's a thing called forgiving their debt. Yeah, we talk about Nasara. I'm sure you've heard about that. Waiting for Nasara to come around. We don't need to wait around for Nasara. We can wipe out their debt by forgiving it. And how you're able to forgive their debt, is by signing it with your golden signature. You're the shareholder of a corporation, right? So by signing it with your golden signature, gets rid of all debt when you become a secure creditor. And by doing that, you take back the estate or the birth certificate, which is a real estate. This is a bond. This is your estate that they have wrongly created without your knowledge, which is a felony, which is treason, which is so much horrible things that you can think of, which is genocide, you guys. This is genocide. So what we do is we create a UCC1 to bring us up to a higher status with the protection of the Geneva and Hague, okay? Geneva Convention and Hague. And because we are putting ourselves on a not at war status, we are not at war, taking us out of the enemy of the state status, which they've enacted back in the early 30s, okay? That we are criminals of war. This is a real terrorist act that had happened back then. And it didn't just happen back in 1933. It goes all the way back to 1871, maybe even before that. But then some say it's even way to the Vatican. But I have videos explaining that. But back in 1871, what happened was our last president was Abraham Lincoln. Did you know that? He was the one who knew what was going on with the bankers. After all, that's what's going on between the government and the bankers. They're pretty much at war with each other, and they've been at war since then. What happened was Abraham Lincoln knew what was happening with the American people. He tried to bring back the greenback, issuing the treasury notes that had some backup, which was our gold and silver, okay, which was our wealth. And he saw what the bankers were doing. They were bringing in their little FRN IOU notes, which is exactly what they are. FRN notes, your pounds, your Australian dollars, it's all of that. Mexican peso, they're all funny money because they are all debt notes, okay? The only way that can overcome this debt is our golden signature. But he knew this, he knew that was going on. So what he did is he put a lien on all the Americans to protect them, to protect their wealth from the bankers. Okay, and so what he did was he invoked martial law, bringing him as the commander-in-chief, which is like the CEO, not the CEO of the corporation like what Obama is, because that's what he is. He is a CEO of a corporation, which is the United States corporation. So what Abraham Lincoln was, he went from president status to commander-in-chief status, where he had the opportunity to put a lien on all the states or the republic, okay? And what happened was the Constitution was really in effect around that time. But when the bankers came involved, what happened? He got murdered. So therefore, he was only putting it on in martial law only for a little bit until the bankers gave up and left, and then brought everything back under the Constitution and everything. Now, in the Constitution, it is written that there are 13 colonies, okay? This was the estate. The estate was fractured back then. It's been fractured since then. So what does that mean? When it's fractured, the Constitution no longer applies. When Abraham Lincoln got murdered, that was the murder of our last president. Therefore, the Constitution, any of that, none of those laws applied anymore. Okay?
So I hope this is okay to play, you guys. Flying Eagle sent this to me, and we're learning a lot.
Because the estate was fractured, which involved the 13 colonies. So, I mean, there's a lot more going on that meets the eye, but I'm just kind of giving you a background of what the birth certificate really is. You know, when you look at that, when you look at your vehicle registration, when you register, what is registration? Again, you're registering over to the state. Okay? So the way that we handle things, the way that we handle these entities, knowing what happened, knowing what wrongfully happened, we grow up a little bit. And by growing up, we tend to say, you know what, we don't want to fight. We're not at war with any of you. Whatever happened back then, that was back then. And we're here, we're waking up now to who we really are. We're becoming more conscious. We're becoming more responsible to take full responsibility of our own person. And therefore, we become secure creditors that are able to take that corporate name and move it the way that we want to move it now. We take it from their hands back into our hands to move it the way we want to move it, you see. That's what a secure creditor is. It isn't saying, oh, give up your driver's license, oh, give up this and that and live on the farm and, you know what I mean, live out of commerce. No, we are living within the commerce, which is fine as long as you are the one who has the upper hand. You have the power of attorney general over that straw man name or the government franchise name. We don't like to use straw man name. Okay. So that's what we do. And with that, every time we get a letter in the mail or a debt or a lawsuit or whatever, we just beautifully accept it with a smile and we send it off to the private corporations such as the IRS or local treasuries. We send it off to them because they know exactly what needs to be done. We don't ever send it back to the public because the public are your courts, your judges, your creditors, you know, third-party creditors. And that's another thing. I get a lot of clients asking me, well, how do I deal with these creditors? What do I do? So easy, so simple. You got to remember, these people these entities are calling you for money, yet they have no paperwork to prove that they're even operating as a for-profit corporation, meaning, okay, yeah, they say that they're a for-profit corporation, but they don't have their paperwork as far as having a tax registration certificate. They don't pay their taxes. They cannot provide proof that this is a real debt that is against you. Original contract. And you need to ask them something too. You need to ask these third-party creditors, if I don't pay you, will that mean that your business will go under? You need to ask them that. Ask the court that. If I don't pay you, will your business go under? Of course it won't, because they're terrorists, okay? They are operating as terrorists that took over the United States of America, okay? There's a lot of things going on back then, but that was one of the things that have happened, and especially has happened all over the world, and not just the United States. So it's very good to educate yourself to know exactly the power of what your birth certificate is, who you are, why you're finding out that the government has the right and authority to tell you what to do and how to do it with your kids, that your kids need to go to school. If they don't go to school, you go to jail or they go to jail. Wait a second. Since when does authority come and tell you what to do and how to do it? Like your parents. Something isn't right, and you need to be the adult enough to ask those questions. Why am I being ruled over by these beings, these entities who look just like us? They're human being like us, and they're telling us what to do. All they have is a badge. And they're telling you how to act. And it all begins from school. When you put your children into public school system, this is where the brainwashing begins. It gets started from then, where the kids have to listen to authority. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. already brainwashed. I mean, one thing is to listen to you, as parents, they have to respect you, of course, but it's even worse in the public system because now they got to respect other authorities and strangers they never even knew before. So that gets them ready for the brainwashing. So this has been going on for many, many years. This has been going on for a long time. So when a cop pulls us over right away, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. I mean, heck, I was in the Army back then. I was in the Army back in 2002. So I'm very full aware of being broken down and getting built back up again. And everything was yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. It was like constantly abiding by the rules like a slave. That's why my kids are no longer in school. They are non-schooled. Anytime they want to learn something, they want to learn web design, they want to learn multiplication, get on Google. Not a problem. Piece of cake. They know how to read very well. They know how to write very well. They will not go to public school because of that. And when you put your kids in public school, what are you doing? You have just enrolled and registered them into the public school so that way they can take your children from you, your property, which is also property of the state, by the way. That is why it's so important to put your children in it on your UCC1 as your collateral. Even trademark their names on a federal level. Look it up. Trademark their names, trademark your name, put it on a UCC1 as well. That's one step to protect your children, but you want to do it before the thing happens, okay? You don't want to wait till the last minute when your kids were taken from you. And this is why I'm educating you, because me as a parent, I find it is so important that parents need to spend time with their children instead of slaving themselves as laborers for the corporation, that you'll never move up. You'll never move on top. Never as a debtor status. You want to move up as a secure creditor status where you're operating on the private side to cancel all their debts because we have the power to forgive their debts. Why? We're also because we're also from the Almighty source. We have the power to do it. We have the power to create our own reality as well. So just wanted to share this with you all, what we're about. And we can help you gain back that power, gain back your estate, and be able to wipe out all charges that are against you. The Inquisition, that's against us all. Okay?
I didn't know what honey does to.
Okay. So, all the good intel from Flying Eagle on that video. And anybody want to follow Dr. Pruitt? He plays, or she, Dr. Pruitt plays a short video, so that's what Flying Eagle just listens to, her short clips and everything. So, all right, you got your A+ for the week, Flying Eagle, and a gold star or a purple star. So I'm not sure. This might be another speech by Trump. I think last night. I didn't see it, so it might be a new one. You guys, is this, I'm not sure, Flying Eagle?
Free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because they've taken it away. In recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people. They have collaborated to suppress vital information on everything from elections to public health. The censorship cartel must be dismantled and destroyed, and it must happen immediately. And here's my plan. First, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens. I will then ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis or disinformation. And I will begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship, directly or indirectly, whether they are the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health, Human Services, the FBI, the DOJ, no matter who they are. Second, I will order the Department of Justice to investigate all parties.
Hey, Flying Eagle, do you know how to drop the link, Carol? I'll see if Kay can drop that link for you, Angie. I don't know if Flying Eagle knows how to do that or not.
Involved in the new online censorship regime, which is absolutely destructive and terrible, and to aggressively prosecute any and all crimes identified. These include possible violations of federal civil rights law, campaign finance laws, federal election law, securities law, and antitrust laws, the Hatch Act, and a host of other potential criminal, civil, regulatory, and constitutional offenses. To assist in these efforts, I am urging House Republicans to immediately send preservation letters, and we have to do this right now, to the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and every Silicon Valley tech giant, ordering them not to destroy evidence of censorship.
Oh, can you find
my
her, Angie?
inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk revising Section
I'll have Kay
230
drop it in,
to get big
chat.
online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection under Section 230 if they meet high standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination. We should require these platforms to increase their efforts to take down unlawful content such as child exploitation and promoting terrorism, while dramatically curtailing their power to arbitrarily restrict lawful speech. Fourth, we need to break up the entire toxic censorship industry that has arisen under the false guise of tackling so-called mis- and disinformation. The federal government should immediately stop funding all nonprofits and academic programs that support this authoritarian project. If any U.S. university is discovered to have engaged in censorship activities or election interferences in the past, such as flagging social media content for removal of blacklisting, those universities should lose federal research dollars and federal student loan support for a period of 5 years and maybe more. We should also enact new laws laying out clear criminal penalties for federal bureaucrats who partner with private entities to do an end run around the Constitution and deprive Americans of their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights. In other words, deprive them of their vote. And once you lose those elections, and once you lose your borders like we have, you no longer have a country. Furthermore, to confront the problems of major platforms being infiltrated by legions of former deep staters and intelligence officials, there should be a 7-year cooling off period before any employee of the FBI, CIA, NSA. If we don't have.
Okay, how was that one? Hey Kim, do you have my email so I can get your contact? Did you want that link there on that one? You guys see this? I'll put it up for a minute and I'll delete it. Here it is, Kim. Lori, if you need it too. Angie. So what do you guys think of that list? Hey, watch carefully on this one, you guys.
Wow. That that apparently does look like it is in the other building at this point. Back off.
Look, did you email?
They're telling us to back off. Wow. That apparently does look like it is in the other building at this point.
So, interesting one there. Okay, finally, this one is a 3-minute. I can't remember if I played it.
Around the sun. But the fact is, of course, that the Earth is a circular dish surrounded by a barrier of ice that explorers have been attempting to penetrate for centuries. 2,000 years ago, an Egyptian scholar by the name of Eratosthenes performed an experiment that he claimed proved the Earth to be a sphere. However, there are serious doubts about the accuracy of his data and his scientific procedures. Dr. Leo Ferrari explains.
The Eratosthenes experiment is an experiment supposedly conducted in the 1st century, whereby this ingenious person was supposed to have proved, I say that in quotes, that the Earth was a sphere of some 4,000 miles radius. Eratosthenes one day noticed that the sun was directly overhead in Syene, whereas he noticed that on the same day, at the same time, the sun made an angle of 7.2 degrees to the vertical at Alexandria, which was some 530 miles away. How did Eratosthenes in the 1st century know what the sun was doing on the same day in two places which are 530 miles apart? One can take all those same data, knowing that the Earth is flat. In one place, you have the sun directly overhead, and at another place, at the same time, at 530 miles away, let us suppose that it does make an angle of 7.2 degrees to the vertical. Then we have a right angle triangle, which it can be easily shown the sun is some 4,000 miles up in the sky. These superficial even considerations show that it's impossible. The whole thing, it's a story, a fairy story made up and mindlessly repeated in textbooks.
Fortunately, not all scientific arguments are based on such questionable research. The Greek astronomer Ptolemy determined to everyone's satisfaction that the Earth is flat, circular, and the central body in the universe. His theory went unchallenged for 1,200 years. Not surprising, really. One need only look around. However, the notion that it was some other shape gained some acceptance during the Renaissance. These were impoverished times. Most writers, artists, and scientists could not support themselves through their work. They depended on the patronage of the upper class. Consequently, creative and original thinking men let their imaginations run rampant in order to attract support. In 1543, the Polish astronomer Copernicus suggested.
So that was an interesting one. So 10-second one from Carol. You guys will laugh at this one. I can't get no volume, you guys. Okay, thanks, all right. That's scary, Carol. Yeah, if you do you know how to drop the links if you can? When we need one? Okay, thanks, Carol. All right, looks like he's having fun doing this, you guys. Yep, that's what it says. We got a 3-minute one coming up here. Someone that we haven't seen in a while.
The universities, the media. I agree with you, Preet. It is not. It's not going to end well for them. For those that decided that it was, that they would act in their perceived very narrow self-interest, which I would underscore is very short-term self-interest, and take a knee to Trump. I think they're now starting to realize, wait a minute, this is not popular. Trump is not popular. What he is doing, whether on the economy and affordability or on immigration now, is not popular. And that there is likely to be a swing in the other direction. And they are going to be caught with more than their pants down. They're going to be held accountable by those who come in opposition to Trump and win at the ballot box. And I can tell you, Preet, as I talk to leaders in Washington, leaders in our party, leaders in the states, if these corporations think that the Democrats, when they come back in power, are going to, play by the old rules and say, oh, never mind, we'll forgive you for all the people you've fired, all the policies and principles you've violated, all, the laws you've skirted. I think they've got another thing coming because, just like when Trump thought, okay, I'll redistrict and the Democrats won't have the guts to play hardball. They're going to be surprised. Democrats have had a belly full, and we're not going to play by, the old set of rules when these guys are playing by a very different set of rules. We're going to play by the law, but we're not going to violate the law the way they do, but we're not going to be suckers. And so I think, whether you're a law firm, whether you're a university, whether you're a media entity, whether you're a big corporation, whether you're big tech, you need to play a long game, not this short game that has been so detrimental. There will be an accountability agenda. Companies already are starting to hear they better preserve their documents. They better be ready for subpoenas. If they've done something wrong, they'll be held accountable. And if they haven't broken the law, good for them. If they've done the right things, good for them. That also will be noted and remembered. But this is not going to be an instance of forgive and forget.
Right.
The damage that these people are doing is too severe to the American people and to our national interest.
Oh, okay, that's old Susan Rice there. I got a 5-minute one coming up. I got a 20-minute Doug or General Flynn. Anybody see this one?
Almost every so-called conspiracy of the past 10 years seems to be proven true the more we dig into the Epstein files. Tonight, we're taking a look at the issue of Ukrainian biolabs, labs that we were told repeatedly over the past few years did not exist. They were nothing more than a Russia-funded conspiracy theory. For years, anyone who questioned government-connected biological research, biolabs, throughout Ukraine, studying viruses or diseases, or research into underground genetics projects, was brushed off as a crazy person. See, I was one of those people. Here's part of some of those reports from 4 years ago.
New and exclusive information about the Ukraine biolab story that some media and politicians are still pretending don't exist. And now we have brand new information you're not going to see anywhere else because it's being scrubbed from the internet. Not only do we have new insight into what was inside of those labs, but also new information about the people working there, being given diplomatic immunity. And not only that, but that people living around some of those labs over the past decade have become sick with cholera and even swine flu. Plus, do these labs have anything to do with the overthrow of the Ukrainian government in 2014?
When he was a Burisma executive and his father was vice president, Hunter Biden's company, Rosemont Seneca, invested $500,000 into a San Francisco-based pathogen research company called Metabiota. I was actually one of the first reporters in the country to tell this story back in 2021. Hunter Biden introduced Metabiota to Burisma officials to negotiate the establishment of biolabs in Ukraine. During this time, Metabiota also received $24 million in funding from the Department of Defense, which included money for Ukrainian research projects. Although the U.S. government and its cheerleaders in the media screamed that the existence of U.S. biolabs in Ukraine were a Russian fabrication and conspiracy theories, the Pentagon and other U.S. government officials later admitted to the fact that 46 peaceful Ukrainian laboratories exist in the country. Tonight, the Epstein emails are once again proving that things that we have previously been told were conspiracies were not. They were happening. And once again, they were worse than we had previously thought. So much worse. Look at this. Emails show Epstein was heavily involved in Ukrainian biolabs, discussing do-it-yourself genetic experiments, including embryo implantation, sperm modification, and so-called biohacking with scientists. Now, consider what we're seeing here. These experiments include sperm modification? Like modified to do what? We don't know. What was Epstein and his donors trying to create? See, there's another email that gives us maybe some insight into that. These detail plans for a proposed designer baby project, outlining funding needs and development strategies. The goal here, according to the email, to move from small-scale garage biology to the first live birth of a genetically designed human, or even a human clone, within just 5 years. Again, why is this happening? And specifically, why was it happening in Ukraine? Well, actually, that part's easy, because this kind of research is inhumane, it is unethical, and most importantly, it's illegal in the United States and most Western countries, which is why all of this was happening in special places like Ukraine, where this could happen, but it was also happening under a huge cloud of secrecy, which is why another email explains the need for secrecy. Read this one. Emails discuss whether financial backers would only participate if they were guaranteed that they could remain totally anonymous, fearing public exposure and massive reputational damage. So now the question, was Epstein simply running a criminal pedophile network? Clearly not. He was also pursuing radical human genetic experiments with global implications. And if these projects were real, and they certainly were, where would they happen? Remember this statement under oath 4 years ago from then Undersecretary of State Victoria Nuland.
Does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian troops, Russian forces may be seeking. This classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
Again, at that time, questions about secret biolab activity were quickly dismissed as Russian disinformation. But now, in the light of Epstein's documented interest in genetic experimentation and his clear use of biolabs in Ukraine to carry it out, this is not a conspiracy anymore.
Okay, I thought that was port one. I wasn't sure on that one. Thanks, Andy. I got a few more different ones, and then I got a 20-minute General Flynn and 2 Benny videos coming up. Shoot. Maybe it's one more than the other one.
And leave no paper trail. A 3,200-hectare compound called Zorro Ranch. Private airstrip, helipad, luxury estate, staff housing, and allegations tied to it that go way beyond trafficking. Hidden forced pregnancies, secret labs, missing flight records, and whispers about bodies that might be buried in the hills. Because deep in the Epstein files, Zorro Ranch isn't a side detail. It's the location that doesn't make sense, and that's exactly why it matters. Now, New Mexico state senators are pushing for a truth commission because the federal government has released fragments, but not the full story. And Zorro Ranch may be the biggest hole in the entire Epstein timeline. Zorro Ranch is located in northern New Mexico, roughly 24 kilometers northwest of Dulce and about 320 kilometers from Roswell. The location matters because it is remote, sparsely populated, and difficult to monitor. Epstein bought the property in 1993 and developed it into a massive estate containing a luxury residence measuring approximately 26,700 square feet, along with guest lodges, staff dwellings, outbuildings, and infrastructure designed for long-term private use. The property also functioned as a self-contained travel hub, where guests could arrive by plane, helicopter, or vehicle with minimal oversight. This is what separates Zorro Ranch from Epstein's other properties. Epstein's private jet, the Lolita Express, created flight logs that later became one of the most important paper trails in the case. But the ranch offered something harder to trace: helicopter transfers. Court records and survivor testimony indicate that Ghislaine Maxwell was central to this structure. Maxwell was a licensed helicopter pilot and multiple accounts suggest she coordinated transport and personally ferried guests and trafficked girls to the ranch. Unlike Epstein's jet, however, there is no widely available public record of helicopter movements in and out of Zorro Ranch. That absence is one of the reasons New Mexico lawmakers argue the ranch remains a major blind spot in the Epstein record. The question is straightforward. If people were arriving and leaving by helicopter, who was on those flights? And who wasn't? One of the most detailed survivor accounts tied to Zorro Ranch comes from Juliette Bryant, a South African woman who has publicly described being recruited into Epstein's network in Cape Town between 2002 and 2004. Bryant's account includes descriptions of controlled movement and disorienting gaps in memory. She has stated that she remembers certain moments clearly.
Okay, that was another one from Epstein. Man, we got a big, we're just starting, everybody. We got 2 more Benny videos. I got a 20-minute general plan. I got Doug video that's 15. So I'm going to stay on until when I have to go out shopping. My sister texts me, and I'll probably come back tonight. So we got a lot of catching up to do on the intel, you guys. So we'll get to the first Benny video. One minute.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. One of the darkest parts about the Epstein saga is how some of your childhood heroes, or some of the people who were famous for starring in childhood movies like Whoopi Goldberg, she was in the Little Rascals, for instance, were completely undone by Jeffrey Epstein. How these were the people that Jeffrey Epstein often targeted. A little bit of a tarnishing of everyone's childhood. Obviously, he had famous actors, Chris Tucker, Michael Jackson, Kevin Spacey, famous people inside of the entertainment and tech industry that were often at the island and often inside of his capture. This, for instance, is Whoopi Goldberg begging Jeffrey Epstein to go on a long trip with her to France. She wanted to use his plane for free, and she's trying to explain it all away here. But nonetheless, the black and white is that Whoopi Goldberg was on her knees begging Jeffrey Epstein for the special things that he could provide for her after he had admitted to being a pedophile. And these are the kind of things that when you look back on them, it really creeps you out, right? Like, so here's Ellen on her set. That just, doesn't that remind you of Epstein Island? It's like, look at this. Here we go. Ellen brought on all these sick kids onto her set, and all these kids are sitting there with the Epstein Island set piece behind them. Like, look at this. Looks just like the temple. And they're all like, hey, I like rap music, right? This kid's like, I like rap music. All these kids are suffering from cancer. Some of them have like one arm and one leg. And then Ellen decides to spring Diddy on all of them with her Epstein Island set and everything. Diddy comes running out to the children and grabs them all. Just a reminder, of course, that just months after this went on live on Ellen's show, Diddy is, of course, arrested and charged with trafficking, racketeering, sexual abuse, sexual assault, drugging of underage girls, and so on and so forth. So this is what Ellen was exposing all of the children on her show to. It's amazing how these demons try and rehabilitate themselves. They think it's all a sick joke, right? That's what this all is. It's all a sick joke. Anyway, the point is that Jeffrey Epstein, after the year 2008, after the year 2008, Jeffrey Epstein is a convicted pedophile and child sex offender who exploited and abused over 250 underage girls, some as young as 14 years old, okay? This is just a matter of fact, right? An investigation began in 2005, and after 2008, this is who Jeffrey Epstein was. This is what he admitted to being. It's not like this is some kind of a contentious court case or he, sued for defamation because someone called him this. He pled guilty to these things in court. All right. This is the man who Whoopi Goldberg wanted to fly on the plane with, who she admittedly wanted to take across the nation and fly with. It's also somebody who had special access to Disney. Oh, yes. This is some of the darkest stuff that we've seen in the files so far. We've done a little bit of research about the millions of documents. The Disney connection to Jeffrey Epstein is wild and very, very dark. Check this out. Lawrence Krauss, this is a professor who loved Jeffrey Epstein. Atheist professor, somebody who famously tried to hook up Jeffrey Epstein with Joe Rogan. Anyway, Lawrence Krauss is sitting here trying to write about a Disney vacation that he's going to take. And that he and Jeffrey are going to take. Check this out. Jeffrey, we should prepare seating cards for our dinner, blah, blah, blah. They're getting a dinner together. Also, since I can't get extra Disney tickets sent here for your guest, too late for that. We can get them when you're here. I won't be able to get a ticket or anything like that. I can try and reserve some rides, but that is only negative. That's the only negative. Okay, so he's saying that he can't get tickets. Disney tickets are like digital these days, right? You can go and reserve rides at the park. So this is Lawrence Krauss complaining that he can't get enough tickets for Jeffrey Epstein and his guests to reserve rides because they're all going to go ride rides at Disney. Jeffrey Epstein responds, "Don't worry, I have special access to Disney. Don't worry, I have special access." Well, does Jeffrey Epstein have special access? And then Lawrence Krauss replies, "Why am I not surprised?" with a smiley face. These people are disgusting, bro. These people are sick. Look at this. Here's Jeffrey Epstein. Disney destinations to Jeffrey Epstein. Would you look at that? Your friend invites you to share Walt Disney World vacation planning. What are they going to do? They're going to do a full Disney experience at the Disney vacation. This is from the Epstein files. Here's more. Jeffrey Epstein, you're invited to participate in a special upcoming trip to Walt Disney hotels. You're going to go there. Jeffrey Epstein's staying at these hotels. Check this out. Here's a Jeffrey Epstein. The subject is Disney with exclamation points. Again, this is in the year 2018. This is in the year 2013. Are convicted pederasts allowed in the Disney parks? Is that true? Is this real? Disney's had a major problem with this in the past. We'll cover that in just a second. But this is well after Jeffrey Epstein pled guilty to child sex offense of over 250 underage girls. He is a convicted and pled guilty predator and pedophile. So these are the look at the timestamps here. Again, you have to make a distinction before Jeffrey Epstein pled guilty on this stuff and after he pled guilty on this stuff when it was public knowledge, okay? I mean, there's some of these monsters hide under the radar, but this is public knowledge. Here's Jeffrey Epstein talking about how they're going to stay at a hotel on the monorail system at Disney, how the places that they're going to stay have an amazing pool. They're going to stay at the Four Seasons. They want to go to do all of the parks. Disney property and shuttle buses to go from the parks. He's going to get park hopper tickets. He's going to be there for 2 days. He wants a bunch of passes. So imagine you're standing in line. The year is 2018. This is not that long ago. 2018 is not that long ago. President Trump this is Trump's first term. And you're standing there with your kids and Jeffrey Epstein walks right up and is in line with you. That happened to people at Disney. Do you understand this? Is there really no system in order to keep convicted pederasts out of Disney? 2018, not ancient history. 2012, again, after this. This is dated 2012. Be our guest at Disney. It would be a dream come true. I love Disney. They're planning on going to Disney. Have you heard about a new Be Our Guest restaurant opening at Disney Magic Kingdom? All of these Epstein emails. Pay for the Disney trip. Pay for Disney trips. Disney dinners. Should we tell Taylor? Hello, we are going to Disney. How many times did Jeffrey Epstein go to Disney? Has Disney ever had to answer this question? I just puked. Jeffrey Epstein had special access to Disney. Disney needs to immediately tell everybody what kind of access did he have.
All of the emails I just showed you are not from Twitter. They're from the DOJ themselves. Why did atheist author Lawrence Krauss inviting Epstein to Disney World? Ghislaine Maxwell had special access in 1985. Here's Ghislaine Maxwell at a Disney presentation here. Happy Family Disney Day. Here's Ghislaine Maxwell on stage with Donald Duck. It's so creepy. It's so wrong. There was that expedition to Little St. James. Look at this. Snorkeling adventures. Little St. James Island is one of the places you could go on a Disney cruise. Oh boy. Yeah, that's right. When you actually finally wake up. Here are photos of Jeffrey Epstein at Disney. Look at this. There he is with some of the characters. Ghislaine Maxwell was a Disney Child Talent Scout for several years. What does that tell you? Here she is. Of course, Epstein had special access to Disney. Not only did the Disney Cruises line stop at the island so children could snorkel, his handler, Ghislaine Maxwell, had strong ties to Disney that had been in place for more than 40 years. Supposedly, they worked to save the children. Here's Ghislaine Maxwell again. Photos of her at Disney. Just a reminder that there's a underground secret tunnel system at Disney. And then it just looks exactly the same. Yeah, that's right. The logos look exactly the same. Special 33 club that you can pay for. Maybe this is your special access. It's almost like they advertised it. Disney Cruise Line to Little St. James. Ooh, man, it's making my skin crawl. Children disappear at Disney and it's not reported. Well, let's go ahead and look here. Of course, the CIA did help Disney conquer Florida. The CIA did help launch Disney World in Florida. There have been multiple reported arrests involving individuals linked to Disney World for child sex crimes, pornography possession related offenses. These cases often involve employees or cast members caught in undercover stings by local law enforcement. And then they go through and point to all of the times that this has happened: 2021, 2023, 2022. Oh, the years, that's maybe some of the years that Jeffrey Epstein had special access. 2023, 2024. These are all the cases. And one of these cases was a case that had hundreds of predators arrested. Hundreds arrested at the park. 106 people arrested in one sting. And the vast majority of them worked for Disney. Here we go. 108 people arrested in a 6-day undercover operation. Many of them working at Disney. Goodness gracious. Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That's the image right there. Whew. Careful. Careful what you expose your children to. There's an evil, evil world out there that is hiding and in disguise. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe.
Okay, the first or the second one, I think. I got a bunch of 2-3 minute ones before I get to the second videos of or the second video, and then we'll get to Doug. Or General Flynn. I don't think we played this yet.
60 jury trials, $1 billion in fraud, and 3 marriages that no one could explain.
Wow, 3 of them.
Room 2. 154 of the Rayburn House office building is not designed for comfort. It is designed for confrontation. The dais sits elevated a long, curved bench of dark wood, where members of Congress look down literally at the witness table below. The architecture is deliberate. It says, "We are above you, and you are here to answer." On this particular January morning, the room was full in a way it had not been full in years. The gallery, 300 seats arranged in rows behind the witness table, held a cross-section of America that would have been unimaginable a generation ago. On the left side, families from the Cedar Riverside neighborhood of Minneapolis, the largest Somali-American community in the United States. Many of the women in hijabs, many of the men in kufi caps, sitting upright, with the dignified tension of people who understood that what happened in this room would determine how the rest of the country looked at them. On the right side, a different crowd advocates auditors, and a handful of parents who had driven from Minnesota to Washington because they had learned from news reports and court documents that federal money meant to feed their children had instead bought lakefront property, luxury cars, and first-class plane tickets to the Maldives. Between these two groups in the no-man's land of the center aisle sat the press cameras mounted on tripods, boom microphones on extended arms, the red recording lights of C-SPAN glowing like small patient eyes. The witness arrived at 8:45, 15 minutes early. Kashyap Pramod Patel Kash, as the world knew him, walked into room 2154. The way he had walked into courtrooms for 2 decades alone, carrying one briefcase, wearing a suit that fit well but did not announce itself. No entourage, no deputy director flanking his right, no communications staff whispering last-minute talking points into his ear. Just a man and a leather case, the same way he had entered courtrooms in Miami-Dade County, Florida, when he was 26 years old and defending people whom the state wanted to put in prison for the rest of their lives. He was 45 now. Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the 9th person to hold the title, the first of South Asian descent. His hair was dark, close-cropped. His jaw was clean-shaven. His eyes were the kind of brown that appeared warm in casual conversation and turned to something considerably less warm under fluorescent lighting in rooms like this one when the questions began. He set the briefcase on the witness table. He poured a glass of water. He sat down and placed his hands flat on the table, a habit from his public defender days when he had learned that juries trust witnesses whose hands are visible and distrust witnesses who hide them. The members of the committee filtered in, Republicans first, then Democrats, then the chairman, a Republican from Kentucky, who had built his career on investigating other people's money and who approached the task with the enthusiasm of a bloodhound who has caught a scent. The vice chair, a Democrat from Maryland, sat to his left, arranging papers with the studied neutrality of someone who already knew this morning would be unpleasant for her party. The last member to take her seat was Representative Ilhan Omar. She entered through the side door reserved for committee members, a small privilege of institutional power that placed her arrival closer to the dais and farther from the gallery, as if the architecture itself wanted to separate her from the people she represented. She wore a deep purple hijab and a dark blazer. Her walk was confident, the walk of a woman who had survived a refugee camp in Kenya, won election to Congress, as the first Somali American in history, been celebrated on the cover of Time magazine, been condemned by her own party, been removed from the Foreign Affairs Committee, been investigated by the House Ethics Office, and emerged from each crisis with her seat intact and her voice undiminished. She took her place on the dais. She glanced at Patel. A brief evaluative look, the look of a politician assessing whether the person across. Then,
Hey, that was part one.
Patel returned the look. His expression did not change. His hands remained flat on the table. The chairman gavelled the hearing to order. This morning, the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform continues its investigation into fraud and misuse of federal funds in the state of Minnesota. Our witness is the Honorable Kash Patel, Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Director Patel, thank you for appearing. The chair recognizes Representative Omar for the first round of questions. Omar leaned into her microphone. When she spoke, her voice carried the particular clarity of someone who has spent her adult life making herself heard first in refugee communities, then in the Minnesota State Legislature, then in the United States Congress. Director Patel, many members of the community I represent feel that this investigation is politically motivated, that it targets the Somali American community to serve the president's agenda. Before we proceed, can you commit to this committee that the FBI will conduct this investigation fairly, without bias, and without the racial profiling that my constituents fear? It was a strong opening. It established the frame she wanted: not fraud, but fairness. Not evidence, but identity. It said, this investigation is about race, and anyone who supports it is complicit. Patel took a sip of water. He set the glass down. When he spoke, his voice was measured not the measured quality of a politician choosing words, but the measured quality of a trial lawyer who has learned that the most effective sentences are the shortest ones. Congresswoman, I began my career as a public defender in Miami-Dade County, Florida. I spent 7 years defending people the system wanted to throw away. Murderers, drug traffickers, people who could not afford a lawyer and were assigned one by the court, me. I defended their constitutional rights, because in America, even the worst accused deserve a defense. He paused. One beat. The beat of a lawyer letting a sentence land before delivering the next one. So, when I say this investigation will be fair, I know what that word means. I have lived it. From the other side of the courtroom. Another pause, shorter this time. But fair also means that no one is above the law, including members of Congress. The room shifted. Not visibly, no one moved, no one gasped, no one murmured. But the air changed the way air changes before a storm when the pressure drops and the birds stop singing, and everyone who has lived through weather knows what is coming. Omar's eyes narrowed. A fraction. The fraction that separates a politician who is in control from a politician who has just realized that the witness is not going to play the role she assigned him. Omar recovered quickly. She was whatever else could be said about her a survivor. And survivors do not lose their composure over a single exchange. She had survived a civil war, a refugee camp, a hostile political environment, and the sustained attention of a president who had told her on national television to go back where she came from. A witness with a sharp tongue was not going to rattle her. She leaned back into her microphone. Director Patel, let me ask you directly. The majority of defendants in the Feeding Our Future case are Somali Americans. The president has called Somali immigrants, and I quote, garbage. He has suggested they contribute nothing. Do you believe this investigation is being conducted without racial bias? It was a trap, and a well-constructed one. If Patel said yes, she would accuse him of ignoring racial profiling. If Patel said no, she would use his words against the administration. Either way, the headline would be about race, not fraud. Patel did not take either door. He opened a third one. Congresswoman, I am the son of Indian immigrants from Uganda. My father, Pramod Patel, was born in East Africa to a family of Gujarati descent. In 1972, the dictator Idi Amin ordered the expulsion of all people of Asian origin from Uganda. Across the room was an obstacle or an opportunity.
Okay, one more part. I'll get the other Billy or Benny, and then we'll get to General Flynn video. No Billy yet, Carol.
Their home, their business, their community. They were expelled because of the color of their skin. He let that settle. My family came to America with nothing. They rebuilt from zero on Long Island, New York. My father became a financial officer. My mother raised children. They gave me every opportunity this country offers: education, freedom, the chance to become a public defender, a terrorism prosecutor, and now the director of the FBI. His voice did not rise. It did not sharpen. It simply continued with the steadiness of a man who is stating facts that do not require embellishment. Please do not lecture me about the pain of immigration, Congresswoman. I have lived it. My family has lived it. And we came here legally, built our lives honestly, and never asked for special treatment. He paused. And then, like a trial lawyer shifting from opening statement to direct examination, he changed direction. But since you have raised the subject of the immigrant community, I would like to ask you about your own immigration record. Omar's jaw tightened. That is not relevant to this hearing. Congresswoman, you asked me about the fairness of this investigation. I am answering. You asked for accountability. Let us begin with yours. He opened the briefcase. He removed a folder, thin, organized, tabbed with colored markers. The folder of a lawyer who has prepared a case. In 2002, you entered into a religious marriage, a faith ceremony, not a legal one, with Ahmed Hirsi. You had 3 children together. In 2009, while still in that relationship with Mr. Hirsi, you entered into a legal marriage filed with the state, with a man named Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi. He turned a page. Mr. Elmi held British citizenship. After the marriage, he enrolled at North Dakota State University, your alma mater. He graduated in 2012. He then moved to Minneapolis, where public records indicate he resided in a public housing complex before being evicted. He subsequently returned to the United Kingdom. He turned another page. In 2011, you and Mr. Elmi separated, but you did not legally divorce until 2017, 6 years later. During that 6-year period in 2014 and 2015, you filed joint federal tax returns with Mr. Hirsi, the man you were living with while you were still legally married to Mr. Elmi. The Minnesota Campaign Finance Board confirmed this violation. You paid a $500 fine and filed amended returns. He closed the folder. He did not set it down. He held it. Congresswoman, I have a question. How many siblings do you have? The question landed like a stone dropped into still water. It was simple. It was direct. And Omar's response to it, or rather her failure to respond to it, would tell the room everything it needed to know. That is a conspiracy theory that has been debunked. Congresswoman, I did not ask about conspiracy theories. I asked how many siblings you have. It is a factual question. It has a factual answer, a number. I am the youngest of 7. And is Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi one of those 7? He is not my brother. That is a baseless. Then provide the birth certificates, and we will know immediately. You have been asked this question for 10 years, by journalists, by investigators, by the House Ethics Office. For 10 years, you have refused to provide documentation. You have refused to make your family available to reporters. You have refused to release immigration records. He set the folder on the table. Congresswoman, in my years as a public defender, I represented hundreds of clients. And I learned something that every criminal defense lawyer learns: innocent people want to prove their innocence. They bring documents. They bring witnesses. They bring evidence. 20 days.
Okay, those are 3 clips of Omar news. Now we'll get to Benny.
They had a better. You ought to come over. It's pipe night.
What happened in your face? No. Look away, I'm hideous. It looks like an old catcher's mitt.
What's up, guys? Benny. Some things it's really hard to forgive, and you should never forget. And you should never forget that Ellen platformed and glazed Diddy. In front of millions and millions of Americans, Ellen normalized a sex offender, a predator, a person who has been charged with trafficking. 62 million followers. Ellen is sitting here. Happy birthday, Diddy. Or as I call him, Cuddle McSnuggle Stuff. You don't need to know why. It's a real tweet. This was sent exactly 10 years ago. Right before the election in 2016. They thought they'd keep getting away with it. And of course, they were going to install Hillary Clinton. And of course, none of them would ever have to face any type of prosecution for what they've done. You know, it's wild if you go through some of the old clips of Ellen and Diddy. Here's Diddy and Ellen talking about how important it is that he comes to her birthday party, because when he gets there, the party really starts. And then Diddy says, I'm going to give you bruises.
But not too late, because, you know, once you get there, the party really starts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I got you. I promise you, I'm not going to let you down on this big one.
All right,
For
good.
real.
Good.
Your shoes, your feet are going to have blisters.
Okay. Got it. There's one other really funny time where Diddy, clearly on drugs, threatened to release a bunch of tapes on Ellen live on the show because he didn't like a joke that she told about
Wear
him.
T-shirts. I don't know what that means. Anyway, all right.
Listen to this.
I mean,
You hold that.
Okay.
All right.
I can really take two of the joke didn't work.
No, it's okay.
I don't want no problem.
No, it's okay.
No, hold on.
Okay, I don't like that joke, and I'm going to release the tapes on you. The more that you watch the tapes back of Ellen's show, the more you realize that her show set looks exactly like Epstein Island. Look at this absolutely creepy video where she puts these little children, who are from like the hospital, some are missing arms, they're sickly children. They're all given Diddy as a surprise. Look at that. With the Epstein Island coloring and background and set, they all go running to Diddy. This is what Ellen did. She literally delivered these sick kids into the arms of Diddy, who just minutes later was indicted on federal sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He's facing 5 years. He will face 5 years in prison, $500,000 fine. Oh my. It could have potentially been much more, and it may well be much more. Look at this. As of October 2025, 70 civil complaint lawsuits have been filed against Diddy, alleging sexual misconduct. This is, he's going to be in prison. He's going to be in prison or paying out for the rest of his life. And here's what Ellen did. This is what Ellen was doing. Don't tell me Ellen didn't know. Don't tell me Ellen didn't know. Okay. And this is why we long suspected that Ellen DeGeneres fled the United States. Because she was worried about how the Diddy trial was going to go. She was worried about how the Epstein list stuff was going to go. Ellen DeGeneres confirmed that she left the U.S. because of President Trump. President Trump declaring law and order, and that she's staying in the United Kingdom for good. Look at that. Diddy have a great life in the UK. Ellen regularly cataloged how miserable their life was out in the United Kingdom. Here, for instance, they're literally posting their L's, how they don't know how to run a riding lawnmower, and they need these two lesbian feminists need a man to help them get their lawnmower out of the grass. And how neither her or her wife, Portia de Rossi, had the strength in their little twig arms to row a boat. Why would you post this exactly?
Inspiration for rowers.
Look at this. Not the strength to row the boat.
I did some rowing at school. Did you?
Looking for tax help? Now there are TurboTax experts right in your neighborhood. They get to know your unique situation and get you every dollar you deserve. So hand off your taxes to a local TurboTax expert today.
Enjoy 24-hour access at most Planet Fitness clubs. $1 down, $15 a month. Deal ends February 27th.
Don't they seem so happy together?
Halfway, guys.
Wow.
5 minutes.
Really? So exciting.
20
so
minutes
happy.
of General Flynn next.
Wow. Just the picture of happiness. Never smiling with your eyes, right? Always dead eyes. Anyway, you'll be shocked to learn that much like Rosie O'Donnell, Ellen is a complete fraud and she's now moved back to America. Could she be charged now? Ellen DeGeneres braves the rain in Santa Barbara after snapping up $27 million mansion. But remember, she's a victim. She's the victim. Ellen DeGeneres may have left the United Kingdom for Santa Barbara, hoping for some sunshine. What she got was more rain. Ellen DeGeneres' on-again haunt has been hit with a downpour. The former talk show queen, she's 70, emerged from one of her several Porsches, and she was squinting beneath her baseball cap. The sighting comes 3 months after she and Portia de Rossi snapped up a $27 million home in Montecito, California. A surprising move, since they promised that they'd never return to America again. Wow, look at that. Goodness gracious. Oh, parking in the reserved parking. Oh, my. Such a victim. Such victims. It turns out that they haven't abandoned their home country just yet. They don't plan on living in California full-time. They're still planning to live full-time in the UK. They'll spend a few months of the year in Montecito. All right. Let's go ahead and look at their new
$27 million home, shall we? Wow. Must be hard for them. Remember, you're supposed to feel bad for them because they're oppressed. They're so oppressed. Look at the oppression there. Never smiling with the eyes, right? Always dead eyes. Oh, okay. Now they're trying to sell their farmhouse in the UK for $30 million after living there for just 1 month. That's twice what they paid for it. Oh, all right. What frauds. Look at this. Oh, I just let the sheep inside the house. They were so smart. So smart. They're such good farmers. And so this is what a joke. They list their UK farmhouse for $30 million. They've had a bad spell of luck too, by the way. It's flooded like a bunch of times. Like ever since they got there, there's been like nothing but disaster after disaster after disaster on their little farm. And well, you know, it's just the way God works sometimes. Rosie O'Donnell admits that she secretly returned to the United States to see if it was safe. Rosie O'Donnell reveals she secretly went to America after Trump threatened to revoke her citizenship. 63-year-old former talk show host announced that she had relocated to Ireland. She's never coming back, but she came back right away. Dylan Mulvaney promises to permanently move out of America. That alone, probably the number one accomplishment for the Trump administration. I am sick of the propaganda, man. And this whole Epstein file saga, you know, learning that Ghislaine Maxwell's father controlled all of America's textbooks in our schools, is one of the creepiest and strangest and most disturbing things. And they were the ones educating every kid, every child. It's critical that we fix that. It's critical that we educate about the corruption inside of our education system. Our education system is a laughingstock. It's a joke. As a father of 5 children now, let me tell you what, I'm a proud homeschool dad. I'm also a proud Angel dad, partnered with Angel Studios. They have an incredible new movie out called Death of Recess. It's live on Angel right now. You can watch, and will change exactly how you see the education system in America, run by the elites, created by the Rockefellers in order to make us slaves, in order to make a slave class, not a free thinking class, not a useful class, but a slave class. And it is truly and totally corrosive. Link in the description to the documentary trailer and how you can watch it. angelstudios.com/Benny. It's your boy Benny. Cry more, Ellen and Rosie. Knew you'd be back. They always.
Okay, update with Benny there. Now a 20-minute General Flynn interview. Yep.
We deserve what we're going to fucking get. Excuse my Irish, you know? We do.
We're in the United States, we're in Washington, and we're about to meet General Flynn, who today is having a roundtable discussion about election integrity, basically about how they prevent the election being stolen, what they gathered from the information from it. Now, General Flynn, I want to and hope to get a sit-down podcast-style interview about his life, because he's had the ups and downs. He faced the Russian hoax. He faced the targeting. I think he was pretty much blackmailed, was he? I believe. So much has gone on. He's very close to Trump.
7 o'clock.
And the heads of the American military, a very well-respected general. And I've been sort of loose contact with him for a few years, but this is the first chance I'm going to get to meet him, shake his hand, and thank him. He also played his part in helping me get to the United States and be here today.
The number I saw the other day, and I think it's just the UK, is that it's 500,000. No, it's 50,000. No, maybe it's 50 million now. It was a crazy number. Like the change of the number of Muslims.
50 million in Europe, yeah.
50 million in Europe.
Yeah.
So it was like 500,000, like in the beginning 60s. I guess maybe 2020, or maybe it was 2000. But that number blew me away. And I don't have the exact, but it was like a multiple of 10 times 10.
Would you know Manchester, the city of Manchester?
Yeah.
After the Manchester terrorist attack, I went and done the numbers in Manchester, looked at how many terrorists. I stood in one place, and where I was standing within a 2-mile radius, 16 fighters had gone to fight for ISIS, just in that 2-mile radius. Yeah. The numbers went from 25,000, 10 years later to 50,000, 10 years later to 100,000.
Yeah.
So every 10 years it was doubling. The population was doubling every 10 years.
Yeah.
And at those numbers, that's what I've seen. And it happened so quick, so fast.
See, at a certain point in time, I always say it's a math problem, right? You get a math problem, like two sides of a math equation equal each other when you create a construct for that. But at a certain point in time, when you're looking at cultures and societies and human beings, in the case of like a Christian America, right, versus a Muslim America or Great Britain, one side is greater than the other, right? That's the greater than or equal or then greater than, right? And that's kind of where we're going. So what you just described in whatever it was, periods of 10 years, right? Yeah. So what happens is that there's an exponential component to math. And once you reach a certain point, that number, it's not 10 years anymore. It's like 5, and then it's 3, and then it's 1. And then it's gone. It's just gone. And then you turn around and you go, wow. And a lot of people, I think, there's people in this country that are looking around their streets. Texas is going through it, right? Parts of Florida, Virginia, right here in Virginia. We're just outside Virginia here. Places like Michigan. So there's parts, the whole issue up in Minnesota with the Somali population, and you look at Somali population, right? These are people that come from the equator. Okay. So why did Obama populate when they brought them in? Because they intentionally brought them, hundreds of thousands in. And you kind of go, well, why did they put them up in some of the coldest damn places of the United States? And when you actually look at it through a political lens, it's a matter of populating parts of the country that were always conservative, right? And have large numbers of what we call electoral votes in our country, which matter for the election of a president. So Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, you kind of go, why would these Somalis want to come to the coldest goddamn place in the United States? Why wouldn't they want to go to Florida, right? Because they were very calculated. They being the Obama administration, and Obama with his minions, they were very calculated about where they were going to place these people, and it's worked.
Yeah, I saw the swing states, the 700% increase in the illegal immigration in the swing states compared to other cities, because they don't want there to be any swing states.
Right.
But when you work, like Luton, when I was born in 1982, there was one mosque. There's now 45, and I don't think people can realise how quickly you just look.
Yeah.
And your town's gone, your area's gone, your community's gone. It's gone. And
so let me throw another stat in, because I get accused of a lot of things. One of the things that I asked about, because I saw probably before Christmas, so this is, whatever month this is, February, I guess, or March. Is March now? But whatever it is, before the holidays, I saw a report on a Catholic church that was partially burned, and they had some graffiti put on it, right? So a friend of mine runs an organization called Catholics for Catholics here in the United States. And I sent him that, and he goes, you know something? He goes, since 2020,
the amount of churches destroyed.
Oh, there's over 500 Catholic churches, over 500 in the United States of America that have had some sort of attack on the church, right? Whether it's burning it to the ground, graffiti all over the place, statues destroyed, and many of the statues are beheaded. Okay. And those are Catholic churches, not Christian, not because I'm doing some research right now on, now I want to know, and that got me interested. I want to know how many Christian churches have been attacked, because we always hear about, we'll hear about a mosque being attacked.
Old news.
And we'll hear about, and we do hear about the synagogues. If a synagogue gets attacked, when a synagogue, there's been synagogue shootings and stuff like that. So we hear about that, but they're not as frequent because there's actually fewer of them. But when you start talking about Catholic churches, and this is just Catholic churches, since 2020, as of last month, just over 500. And it's kind of like, okay, so who's talking about that? you know, in a nation that to still be elected to lead this nation, you must get the Christian vote. And actually, to be president of the United States, you must get the Catholic vote. Okay, the largest voting bloc in the United States of America are Catholics. And yet, we don't hear about it. And part of it is because the hierarchy for the second Pope in a row on down to the U.S. Council of Catholic Bishops, they're kind of part of this thing. You know, we saw the Pope, you know, he's bowing to the Muslim community. I mean, it's like, okay, I get we're going to get along with people, but they're just not compatible. I'm sorry, they're just not compatible. And we have arguing to eliminate Sharia law.
11 minutes.
I mean, I'm not talking about, you know, you want to go practice your religion. I don't care if you want to hug a tree and, you know, and pray to the clouds. If that's what you want to do, if that's what makes you feel good. But when it comes to law, right? And this is why in the Islamic world, they have something called Sharia law. You've talked about this a lot. Everybody, I think, for the most part, that's switched on or paying attention, that's awake, has heard about Sharia. Well, Sharia is a law. It is a legal system. It is the only legal system allowed by
What
that
do you guys think of the
community,
interview?
right? And so we say in this country, okay, so, you know, what's wrong with allowing these Muslims to practice their religion, right? And I'm on record, actually on I think it was Sky News Arabia, where I said, well, Islam is not a religion. It is a political ideology, and it hides behind this idea of freedom of religion, right? Because it has a law, Sharia law, and it has, you know, it's hadiths. And the way I try to make people understand or kind of give them an idea, their hadiths are kind of like, you know, we have constitutional law in this country. We have the Bill of Rights. So you have Sharia law, which is very specific. And then you have these hadiths that give certain things, that talk about certain ideas about that law and about their way of life. So if you want to make an analogy, it's a poor analogy, but it's to make one, you know, our Bill of Rights are kind of like their hadiths, and their Sharia law is like our constitutional law. They're not compatible. And yet they're here arguing, and we now have states having to try to ban Sharia law. And I years ago, I wrote a book. I don't know if it's in here, but I wrote a book. It's in the other room, called The Field of Fight, and How to Win the War Against Radical Islam and Its Allies. It's the first book that I wrote. And in it, I argued, one of the arguments that I presented was back to Catholic Church, right? The Catholic Church came into America to try to protect a pedophile priest using canon law. Okay, they actually tried to come into a U.S. court in Boston, and this is almost 20 years ago now, to protect, and like Rome sent a bunch of lawyers over, right? A bunch of, you know, Catholic lawyers, right, to protect a Catholic priest in a federal court who was, you know, alleged to be a pedophile, and they wanted to use canon law to have him reviewed, right, to have him, you know, go through the legal system. And good enough for the judge said, no, this is the United States of America. We're going to use the Constitution and constitutional law. I dismiss your argument. You know, we're not going to use canon law here. And so that was a smart judge who understood our legal system clearly, right? So why should we allow this Sharia law? Because I'm one, like, you know, ban Sharia law, ban anything that is not constitutional, right? And it's not part of our constitutional legal system. And that's kind of all I want. Now, if the problem for the American public and for the world, back to that math equation that I talked about, at a certain point in time, the evolution of the society and the culture is going to change, where if we have a system where you can come in and vote, they're going to outvote you. And trust me, they're in their mosques talking about exactly who to vote for and exactly what to do. Whereas if I stood as a pastor in some ecumenical church in the middle of Oklahoma, and I said, you know, vote for Tommy Robinson to be the next, you know, congressman or the next senator from the state of Oklahoma, the authorities would come in and close me down. They would attack me. I'm a 501c3, whatever. All the mechanics of all that. They would shut me down. But do they do that to mosques? No, because you know what the Muslims would do? They would scream and they would get all kinds of publicity, and they would attack with the verbal assaults that they use, which is to say what you've been called 50,000
Islamophobia, racist,
Exactly.
extremist.
Exactly.
We have 100 Sharia courts operating in Britain. We have 100 operating. And the problem is,
100.
we have 100 operating now in Britain. That's recognised by the government. There's 100 Sharia courts operating. Now, the problem is, even if they don't get government level, once the community accept that law, which they do, then they deal with everything outside the law. So they just deal with everything in the mosque. So if there's a dispute between families, if there's a criminal dispute, they don't go to the police. The police don't get called to the Islamic community in the UK. They operate within themselves. Now, even the statistics.
So they're making the decision.
They
go into their own court.
Go into their own courts. And our police actually recently, an autistic child, damaged the Quran. And it was like a Sharia tribunal. The mother had to go to the mosque. The police sat alongside whilst the mosque decided and told people what was happening with this child.
Was the child
6 minutes, you guys.
British non-Muslim. British non-Muslim.
Doug video coming
British
up.
non-Muslim, and the police literally. But even if you look at the statistics,
autistic,
so it was an accident. He was damned.
Yeah, I have an autistic grandson.
Okay. But even the statistics. So 99% of Afghanis, Pew Research, 99% of Afghanis want Sharia law. So if you bring in 1 million from Afghanistan, you've got 1 million people who wish to implement Sharia law. It's like if you had a communist nation, and
that's all they understand.
That's it.
I mean, and they come in and they go.
I don't blame them.
Yeah, I mean, this is what they understand.
That's what they want.
And the government is going, okay, well, we'll accept it, because the government is like doing what? What is it that the government wants? You know, the British government, the U.S. government, any government. What do they want to actually create with allowing this, this growth of a culture that is not compatible with the culture that nation was built upon?
But the European Court of Human Rights in 2007 ruled that Sharia law is incompatible. So it's not even just our opinion. Yeah, right. The European Court of Human Rights found that Sharia law was incompatible with Western democracy and freedom due to their views on women's, homosexuals, free speech. So they've already ruled that. But I think when you say what do they want, this is where America really needs to get ready, because what we've seen in the UK is they allowed a rape of a generation of our daughters to keep the vote. So once that vote becomes a power bank, whether it be, especially if you do it in your cities, once they become such a power, then like I'd say the way the Democrats have kept the black vote and tried to keep the black vote, keep them down, keep them at the bottom, keep them voting, keep them loyal, they want them dependent on the state. Well, they'll replace the black vote with a Muslim vote, and the Muslim vote, as people are realizing, they organize themselves in a military fashion. The local leader of my council, and this is when I realized in Luton that we're irrelevant. So I'm in my hometown, it's 2013. I looked at the projected growth forecast for the town, and on the government website, the Pakistani and Bangladeshi community by 2030 were going to increase by 70 to 77%. The white and black by 1.2 to 1.4. Right. So the Labour Council, which is the Democrat Party, they know we don't matter anymore. In Luton, if they want to hold power, if they wish to hold power, they have to do a deal with the leader of the Council of Mosques. And the mosques will come together. So we've got 45 mosques. Sure. They all come under one council. That one leader sits down with the Labour Party. We want this, we want this, we want this. And then you've got our vote. And then the Labour Party, no, they don't need to do anything. They've got 50,000 votes from the Muslims. So, and there's a bit of a divide happening now because Labour is because of the Palestinian argument, and now we've got a lot of independents, pro-Gaza MPs. But I think America just needs, that's why I wanted they just need to brace themselves for the power of this small community when they get voting, when they get organised, and when you don't have a political will or courage to stand up to them, which I'm seeing many congressmen coming out talking about Sharia, which is great.
Yeah, Doc Chambers. Yeah, I mean, because their primaries are the 3rd of March. That'd be worth doing like a Zoom call, or maybe even going down there.
Where is he?
He's in Texas.
Okay, we'll go there.
He's in Texas. I mean, he's a good guy. But before the 3rd of March, which is like a week and a half. But either or. Why do you threaten them so much?
Why do I think they worry. Because remember all of these problems. So that when I first started talking in 2009, I'm talking about the problems that they're importing, and they don't want the public realizing these problems. So the rape of all of our daughters was covered up. They successfully managed to cover it up for 30 years.
Is it because of? It's like I'm paying very close attention to all this Epstein stuff, and there is like this like supra group of people,
power.
I call it. It's this giant intelligence operation. And there's probably trillions of dollars, not just billions of dollars, that are part of this sort of body of people that, like a marionette, a group of marionettes, puppets, right? They make sure that certain things are influenced and certain decisions are made and certain people arise to the prime minister's role or whatever. Is it all about control? Or is it about, and you're a guy who kind of, when you started, you're a guy that like, he's got his finger on that. He actually understands what we're doing. Yeah. He's just not at a place yet where we can't allow him to, we can't allow a guy like this to have that kind of a voice, particularly in that part of the world, right? In Great Britain, but is it about power, money? Is it a combination of things? What's your view on
power, money, and their agenda? Their agenda is to weaken the nation state. So the European Union and these masters, world masters, have been working to weaken national identity, weaken manhood, weaken men, weaken family, weaken church. Because if they weaken all of that and then they bring in mass immigration, they break down our communities, which I've watched. And when I say I've watched, I used to walk down the street and I know every person and we shake hands and we hug and we're a strong community. That's gone. That's gone. And at the same time,
just in your hometown,
just in my hometown, I've seen it. It's gone. Yeah. And then,
I can tell you, my hometown is probably a little bit bigger, but not much. And it's the same thing.
People move, but then not just that. We've seen an attack on the pubs in the UK. Part of British culture, the heart of British culture is the pub, where men get together to talk politics, to talk about what's wrong. Our organisation in 2009, we formed and met and built a movement nationwide from the pubs. All of those pubs we met at are gone. They've closed them all down. They're up in the taxes. Keir Starmer's government's doing it now. So any ability to bring people together, and I don't think it's just my issue. I talk about Islam, but if you look at what happened during COVID, it's anyone who has a platform that they didn't have control of, that can reach the public, that goes against their agenda. So their agenda of mass immigration, their agenda of trans, which I'm seeing all along this city. You go against any of these agendas, they come for you. And people celebrated when I was censored, but then they started seeing doctors and nurses censored. They started seeing established figures censored. We saw Donald Trump censored. We've seen everyone's witnessed it. But I think that their fear, I think that if we understand, the power still lies with us, the people. But they want us all divided and they want us feeling isolated. And that's what we're trying to build now with this.
Well, okay, that was General Flynn interview from Great Britain, British. Haven't heard him talk in a while. So we got a Doug 15 and then a couple more we'll finish off with. Try to get back by 7 o'clock. This is Doug's video.
Essentially people like you. So he invoked the governor and said the governor agreed that investigators shouldn't be looking into these fraudsters. Sean, these were the people who committed the single greatest act of COVID fraud in the history of the United States. Total fraud, $9 billion. And people like Keith Ellison and ultimately Waltz were protecting them. These guys ought to be ashamed. And Waltz, I say it again, Waltz ought to be indicted for his role in this.
Okay, let's do this, guys. What's happening in Minnesota right now should make every taxpayer in America furious. You know what I'm talking about out there. Republicans are demanding that Minnesota Democrats pay for what they broke. They're pushing for jail time for good old Timmy Waltz, Tampon Tim, following revelations that fraudsters stole up to $18 billion in taxpayer-funded social service programs. That's $18 billion. Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey are now asking the federal government for reimbursement, claiming Washington needs to pay for what they broke. That's right. Republicans are saying you pay for it, you broke it, because they did break it. And then they're going, no, the federal government should pay for what we broke, to the tune of $18 billion. They're talking zero accountability out there in Minnesota. I'd love to hear from the chat, especially people from Minnesota. Is this acceptable to you to give them a bailout? So here's the question people are asking. Is jail time coming for Tim Walz? You guys can tell me also in the chat below. Is Tim Walz going to the clink? And more importantly, is this just Minnesota? Is it just one place on the map, or are the symptoms indicative of something much bigger? To break it down, I have my good buddy, Ross Givens. Ross has spent nearly a decade, and we're in a partnership on this cool deal that we're going to try and get you involved in here and just tell you about. He's been looking at political corruption. This is probably our fourth show that we've done together.
Yeah.
You observe money flows, insider trading, congressional disclosures. And what you've uncovered is just staggering, especially in Minnesota, but it's much deeper than that. Ross is also hosting a free live training on that's this coming Wednesday. I want you guys, my buddies, to come in the room and sign up for this. February 25th, Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, where you'll show how everyday investors, people like me, can legally follow some of the corruption legally by following their insider trades and making money. And I have done this already on my phone app. I've been trading right along with you, and you give a few stock picks here and there, and then I go and throw whatever money I can afford. Sometimes it's just $100, sometimes it's $1,000. And when you register, you, my audience, will receive a free insider trade pick from the brain of this guy.
Yeah, and it's just tracking insider activities, so y'all are aware. So we're just following what stocks the congressmen are buying, what stocks insiders are buying, and letting that tip us off using their unfair advantage for ourselves. So thank you for telling them that. Yeah, if you register, we'll send you the last one for free. You can see what we're talking about.
Yeah. We're going to do this big time right here. I'm going to get a whole bunch of you guys to sign up for this thing and come watch, because it is so educational, guys. This is the DougsInsiders.com website. The link will be in the description. It'll be the first pinned comment. So you just click the link and it'll take you to DougsInsiders.com. You're going to navigate right down to this button that says register now. When you register now, we'll be able to get a hold of you when the show goes live, and you'll join us. That's this coming Wednesday. Okay, let's start with Minnesota. Ross, we're talking billions of dollars in fraud, public officials asking for reimbursement, Trump kicking off major investigations. Is this incompetence or something a little worse?
Well, incompetence would be a few $100 more spent on pizza. 18 billion. That to me is at best is probably a systematic failure, and potentially something much darker. So as you mentioned, we got Walz saying the federal government should pay for what they broke, which is insane. He's trying to place the blame on federal government, taking no accountability, pointing the finger as he does. The mayor's saying there's another $200 million in economic losses on top of this. That's lost wages, hotel cancellations, a lot of small businesses being crushed because of the chaos this has caused. And here's the thing, the way I look at it, Doug, if you or I mismanage billions in public funds, we wouldn't be holding press conferences like Tampon Tim. We'd be negotiating plea deals.
We'd be in jail. That's exactly that is exactly the unfairness that hits us in our gut, right? And Minnesota isn't exactly new to financial controversy. We have a long history of it. We've seen multiple high-profile fraud cases there in recent years, which begs the question, is this an isolated one-time failure, or is there a culture of no accountability going on with our elected officials and the stock market in general?
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out the accountability term, because, yes, what's going on now is in Minnesota, but if we zoom out and we look at Washington, D.C. as a whole, This is just par for the course. I mean, as you mentioned, I've been tracking this stuff for a decade, and members of Congress, those elected to serve and represent you and me, they violated the Stock Act 2,035 times in the last 3 years. 2,035. That is 50 violations per month. That is 2 per day.
2 per day.
Now, for those who don't know, by the way, I realize I'm talking about something you may not be familiar with. The Stock Act is what was passed about 10 or 12 years ago that requires members of Congress to report their stock trades that they place inside of 45 days. And the goal was create some transparency there, right? We all know what they're doing. And all they've got to do is fill out this one-page report to stay compliant. What stock? How many shares? And they can't even do that. If you or I violated federal law 2,000 times, we'd be in jail, like you said. But Congress, however, the penalty for violating this very basic form of transparency, the penalty is a $200 fine, is a slap on the wrist. Pelosi never even got that. So it's not really a punishment. It's a parking ticket, the way I look at it.
I've paid more fines in parking tickets than that. So this is elitism. This is they get special treatment. It's rules for you and me, but not for thee. For those people,
exactly.
They get away with it every time. That's what makes us sick.
Yeah, and if you look, I mean, some of these offenders, like, it's massive. You got Democrat Vale Hoyle, who failed to report over half of her trades on time. Half. That's not an oversight. That's a pattern. It's a complete lack of concern. And what makes it even worse is when you look at some of these delayed trades, the stocks they bought and didn't tell anybody about for 2 or 3 or 4 months, many of them were big winners, Doug.
So the reporting is late, perhaps by design. The trades are profitable, obviously by design.
Sure.
And the penalty is only $200.
Bingo. Yeah. And you know, sadly, look, I don't want to just pick on the Democrats. It's not just Democrats. I mean, unfortunately, Republicans are complicit in this too. It is a bipartisan problem, but they're just not doing anything about it. They never have and never will. And especially now with midterms coming up, nobody wants to spend their political capital tightening these insider trading laws. And Trump, you know, he doesn't get everything right, but he's a pretty smart guy, and he's too smart to waste energy here. He's got a massive agenda of things he wants to get done. When half of Congress is making $1 million a year plus on these stock trades, you're going to piss a lot of them off. If that's the fight you're going to fight, you're going to take away their honey hole. And if he does that, he won't be able to get anything done.
But the 2025 Congressional Trading Report was just released. Talk to me a little bit about what you found there.
So, yes, once a year we get this Congressional Trading Report. There's a couple of sites that kind of aggregate this data. So we get a summary for the year. And Doug, in 2025, for the 5th year in a row, DC once again beat Wall Street. So here's the highlights. 38 members of Congress outperformed Warren Buffett last year. 38. Average returns for Congress were just over 33%. That's for the year, the whole portfolio. Now, the S&P 500, like the general index, which does 9 or 10% a year, it had a great year. It was up 16.8%. Congress doubled that.
So while Minnesota taxpayers are asking where the $18 billion went, members of Congress are quietly getting 50%, 60%, 78% annual returns. I want some of those annual returns, Ross.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as you said, Warren Davidson clocked in there, 78%. And look, we know it's not luck. Right? The stocks they buy often line up with what committees they're on. We'll see defense committee members buying defense stocks. You'll see energy committees buying energy stocks. Appropriation members buying stocks in companies that receive the federal funds that they themselves dole out. So it's not even subtle anymore.
And yet no one goes to jail.
No one goes to jail. Look, I mean, it's all public, right? Pelosi's been doing it since 2008. She made $300 million on these trades. She never got so much as a slap on the wrist. And bills, as you mentioned, have been proposed to ban stock trading in Congress, but none passed. Most never even hit the floor. But there is a silver lining to all this. And if you're watching getting really angry, let me give you the silver lining, because this is the part everyone misses. All this trading activity, as I said, it's public. You can see what they buy. You can see when they buy it and how much they buy and follow along.
So instead of being outraged, you're following the money.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, you can piggyback these trades, right? And I like to say, look, we're paying their salaries. The least they could do is hand us a stock tip here and there, and it's legal, it's ethical, and that's what I show people how to do it. And I'm doing in this free training event coming up on Wednesday at 3. I'm going to break down exactly how to find these filings, how to filter out the noise, how to identify these high conviction trades, how to keep your risk very small. We'll send you a free pick, as you mentioned, when you register. So even if you can't attend live, be sure to register for that. But this is all, at the end of the day, just common sense, right? We're following the stock trades of people who have better information and taking their edge and using it for ourselves. So I think you should see what's available to you.
And I take it this isn't just politicians, right?
Oh, no. Yeah. So thank you. We track corporate insiders too. And people don't know this, but CEOs, chief financial officers, board members, they have to report their trades publicly too. And these guys have to do it instantly. So forget that 30-day or 45-day delay or not following the Stock Act. These guys report the next day. So you can see exactly what stocks they're buying right now, this week. We can see when they're buying before earnings. You can see if they're buying before buyouts or big AI contract announcements. If, for pharmaceutical companies in the middle of a big drug trial, I want to know if the chief medical officer running those trials just put his whole salary into the stock before it gets released, right? So these are all things that we follow, we've used to make a lot of money with. And in my opinion, it's one of the biggest informational edges available to everyday investors. And most people either ignore it or just don't know how to find it. And that, I guess, is where I come in. I show people how to do this stuff. It's a free event, by the way. It didn't cost anything. It's online, but you're going to learn where the public databases are, how to access this stuff, what to look for. And all you have to do is just follow along.
This is going to be great, guys. You're going to click that link and you're going to sign up, and he'll show you all how to do it. And that's all free. Okay. So whether if it's Minnesota fraud, 2035 Stock Act violations by our politicians, or Congress quietly beating Wall Street again and again, one thing is clear. The system seems to reward insiders. But Ross is going to show you guys how to use this system for your own benefit, right? The training's free. It's online, like we said. It's happening this Wednesday, February 25th at 3 p.m. Eastern. Click the link in the description to register. I'll also pin the first comment. We'll have the same link to Doug'sInsiders.com where you can click that link and register for free. And make sure that you grab the insider trade write-up when you do. That's Ross explaining all of his thinking behind his trades. Ross, I can't thank you enough. This has always been eye-opening.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I look forward to seeing everybody on the 25th. I can promise you this. You won't look at investing the same way again.
Oh, I love it. That's what we're going to be doing. It's a lot of fun. I'm in a partnership with Ross. We have a blast. It's very informative. I have learned so much, and that's why I like when I can help you guys in some way. I'm going to show you the website again real quick. Look at this. There's the countdown. You go to that register now button right there, and you fill it out, and you'll be joining Ross and I on this webinar coming up this Wednesday. I don't want you guys to miss out on it, so make sure you click. I'm Doug in Exile.
Okay, another interview there with Doug, and we got General Flynn today. No Billy yet. I got a few more I'll play.
Rash, he's out the door at CBS, but
about 7 minutes.
It looks like CBS could get CNN at the end of the day. And hear me out for a second because it's a little convoluted. You get these big conglomerate companies. CBS is owned by Paramount Skydance, and Paramount Skydance is trying to get Warner Brothers Discovery. And Warner Brothers Discovery, of course, owns CNN. Now, Warner Brothers Discovery was trying to do a deal with Netflix, and it looked like that deal was going to go down. I mean, that was all systems go. We thought that was what was going to be happening. But then what do you know, this morning, they came out and said that they were going to give an opportunity to Paramount Skydance. So Netflix is granting. Netflix is the one that's supposed to be buying Warner Brothers Discovery. They're going to give them what's called a 7-day waiver. So you have this merger going on, and they're going to say, okay, for 7 days, you guys can entertain this discussion because they're locked up, right? It's like when you buy a house and the offer's in and it gets accepted and the deal's happening. Well, now they're going to give them 7 days, and Paramount's like, we can do better. We can so do better. We're going to give you a much better offer. They've said that they would offer $30 per share, all cash. But they've also said, and they've indicated this over and over and over again, David Ellison has said it's not his final, it's not his best offer, that he's willing to give more. So that is, by the way, a huge signal for the board of directors. They almost can't accept this offer. I was surprised when they were like shoo-shooing David Ellison, CBS away. They're like, oh, we don't want anything to do with you. I mean, I don't think they really want anything to do with David. I think that, the guy who's running Warner Brothers Discovery would prefer not to have to sell to Paramount, CBS, Skydance. But he doesn't get to make that decision. The board does. So the board of directors has to say, okay, is this what we think is in the best interest of shareholders? And it's pretty darn simple. For the best interest of shareholders, you want, 1, the best price, and 2, the ability for the deal to close. There's a lot of antitrust concerns with this particular deal between Warner Brothers Discovery and Netflix. And the thinking is maybe there'd be a few less antitrust concerns if you had Paramount doing the deal. So apparently it got leaked that Paramount might be willing to spend $31 per share. The board can't turn that away. So today they came out with a statement. Netflix has provided WBD a limited waiver under the terms of WBD, Warner Brothers Discovery, that would be CNN's merger agreement with Netflix, permitting WBD to engage in discussions with Paramount Skydance for a 7-day period that would be ending on February 23rd, 2026, to seek clarity for WBD stockholders and provide Paramount Skydance the ability to make its best and final offer. Again, I couldn't understand why they didn't do this earlier, because the legal headache that you would have, you're going to get sued by the board if you don't entertain the guy who's out there saying, hey, I can do better, I can do better. And if you don't give him the opportunity to do better, then everybody's going to be wondering if you left money on the table. So during this period, Warner Brothers Discovery will engage with Paramount Skydance to discuss the deficiencies. You notice how they say that, the deficiencies that remain unresolved, and clarify certain terms of the proposed merger. So I mention this because,
I think any deal should be.
I want to get back to that in a second, but I just mentioned this because as we talk about Mr. Anderson Cooper over there on his CNN set, it's kind of funny because I think that Anderson might ultimately, whether he likes it or not, still have to work for Barry Weiss, because if this deal goes through, and I have a feeling it actually will. I'm going to play you what the president said a couple of weeks ago, which is one indication. I also heard from a source that David Ellison was in the president's office. They're in the Oval Office just the other day. I think I'm okay to say that. And so he's out there lobbying for his chance at getting this deal done, and he's got a lot of big ideas on what he wants to do. I will say this, one of the problems with the deal as it currently stands with Warner Brothers Discovery and Netflix is that Netflix is not going to take on CNN. So they're going to have to spin off CNN just like they did with MSNBC. Get rid of the dirty laundry, so to speak. They're going to spin it off unless Paramount buys it, because Paramount's like, we'll take it. We might be able to do something. We'll put CBS together with CNN. They've been talking about doing that forever. I think for 2 decades, ever since Anderson Cooper first got a job there and was working at CNN. So they see an opportunity for these synergies. And Donald Trump has said, the president has said, I want CNN to have a home. Listen.
I think any deal should be guaranteed and certain that CNN is part of it, or sold separately. But I don't think the people that are running that company right now and running CNN, which is a very dishonest group of people, I don't think that should be allowed to continue. You have some good companies bidding on it, I think the people that have run CNN for the last long period of time are a disgrace. I think it's imperative that CNN be sold. I wouldn't want to see the same company end up with CNN, the same company with money.
So it sounds like he's leaning, which means if you want the deal to get approved and not be in violation of antitrust rules, it sounds like you might want to take a really good hard look at Paramount, right? Which means, Anderson could get fired again. If he was fired. We don't really know the details. I suspect they didn't make him much of an offer. So it was not financially attractive for him to stay there, which basically means they didn't want him. And so he said, I'm going to go spend time with my family. Fine. And now is Barry going to get a chance to do it again? Because Paramount is going to buy CNN, possibly. Very interesting times, my friends. Meanwhile, Colbert, talking about another CBS guy, he's just melting down. He can't believe this. The FCC is actually enforcing the rules that, by the way, every other FCC chair just ignored for decades. And he can't believe what this means for his final moments on the show. Don't forget, he's next, right? Colbert, like they already canceled him. He's out. He's losing tons of money on his show. We're just waiting for Jimmy Kimmel to go.
Okay, the last one for till tonight. I don't know what time, but I'll be on tonight. 4 minutes, you guys. Under 4.
Who put away Timothy McVeigh and his Stalin's stomach for blood?
Brick agents at the FBI.
Who helped investigate Jussie Smollett, who, in an effort of self-aggrandizement, set back the fight for minority rights for years?
I think that was local authorities.
It was the FBI that opened an investigation, wasn't it?
Eventually, yes, Senator.
There have been or were some bad people at the FBI and the Justice Department, which work hand in glove, weren't there?
Unfortunately, yes, Senator.
Secretary Clinton's lawyer, a gentleman by the name of Michael Sussman, had a pass to come and go at the FBI building as he wished. Don't you think the American people have a right to know about the details of that?
Not just that, but what a political party was doing with the secure compartmented information facility with direct access to the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Mr. Hunter Biden cheated on his income taxes. Didn't pay $1.4 million in income taxes over 4 years. And he filed fraudulent returns. He tried to deduct his hookers as a business expense, for God's sakes. And they hit him with 2 misdemeanors before there was a public outcry. Don't you think the American people are entitled to know the details of that?
The American people are entitled to a singular form of justice and the details to every public corruption investigation.
You remember Peter Strzok?
I sure do.
One of the lead investigators for Mr. Mueller's Russian collusion hoax?
Yes, Senator.
Do you remember when the Inspector General, not his colleagues, turned him in? Inspector General found that Mr. Peter Strzok said, quote, sent an email to his girlfriend, quote, just went to a Southern Virginia Walmart. I could smell the Trump support, end quote. Remember that?
He did that while employed at the FBI while working on that investigation.
Do you remember when the IG revealed another email by Mr. Strzok to his girlfriend? Mr. Strzok said, quote, I am riled up. Trump is a fucking idiot, is unable to provide a coherent answer, end of quote. You remember that?
Peter Strzok said that.
You remember when his girlfriend texted Mr. Strzok, quote, Trump's not ever going to become president, right? Right? And Mr. Strzok replied, no, he won't. We'll stop it.
I do remember their insurance policy.
And then Mr. Strzok testified in front of God and country that never had his political beliefs impacted his work. You believe in the tooth fairy?
When I was a kid.
You believe Jimmy Hoffa died of natural causes?
He's also not in the end zone of Giant Stadium.
And then Mr. Strzok got fired, and next thing we know, the FBI and the Department of Justice, after he sued, gave him $1.2 million. Don't you think the American people are entitled to know the details of that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Kennedy and Cash. You're in the show with. All right, so a lot of good stuff on the first show, and I'm not sure what time I'll be on later. Hopefully around 7. And have a good dinner, everybody. We'll see you after dinner time. And thanks to the mods. Mine Eagle, okay, and Carol, Tim's not in chat much. And I think who else? I think I got all the mod name. So, till a few hours from now, another good show here again. We'll have more tonight. And bless everybody. Love all. Remember, please like and go to the new people. Please go to the description. And sub to the backup channels, please. Thank you. And Angie, KK getting better, I hope. And stay safe, stay strong, keep the faith. And our sign that Aunt Karen gave me. Never give up. Signing off for now. Chico dude. Yep. Stay strong, keep the faith, never give up. We'll see you in a few.